Hi, Mage fans. This is your host, Terry Robinson, with Mage the Podcast, providing a bonus episode made possible by our executive producers. This is a one-shot I ran online in September. The group largely had only D20 experience prior to this, and they were interested in trying a World of Darkness game, specifically the Big Purple. My goal is to show that it's entirely possible to take a group of new players and give them something like a Mage experience in a single evening session. We played for about 3 hours, but once I cut out the break, side conversations and such, it came out to about 90 minutes. Normally, when I run this scenario, it takes about 4.5 hours, which would probably edit down to about 3 hours of total play time. I require no familiarity with the rules ahead of time, except that I ask the players to look over the Sphere Effects reference chart, which is something that Mark Hope created and has provided to the Mage the Ascension Facebook group. I will include a link in the show notes, as well as asking the players to pick a character template. The characters were all tradition agnostic and generally had 9 dots in spheres and 4 or 5 dots in arete. As to me, power makes up for familiarity with the system. I also tend to be pretty generous with adjudicating effects, as my goal is to have the players use their powers enough that they understand how the system works and hopefully have the opportunity to come up with some sort of interesting improvised effect by the end of the evening, which to me is part of the fun and terror of the sphere system. I know I goofed on a rule or two and I didn't want to stop the game to check anything. You'll also get a peek into my GM style when dealing with new players, which involves a lot of clarifying questions and asking for descriptions of something I presume the characters are doing. I tend to try and have clarifying moments of role-playing occur throughout, asking players what they think of what their character would likely think another character is doing, as well as information about how they're dressed in the world around them. I really think it is important to build a strong visual style when playing a game of Mage. Generally, I want the players to help me build the world, and I also want to be able to help guide the characters based on what a reasonably informed in-world Mage would know. I failed to record the conversation at the end of the group's thoughts, which ultimately were actually pretty illuminating on what they thought was easy and what they thought was hard. A lot of it was a discussion on what you need to do to change your mindset when you're used to a D20 game like Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder for something that is closer to what the storyteller system is kind of asking for. Thank you to the group for letting me record, and thank you to our executive producers for making this possible. If you'd like to become one, please go to patreon.com/magethepodcast. If you don't have the scratch to do that, that's totally fine. You can always help the show by telling a friend about it or using our Drive-Thru RPG affiliate link when making a purchase on Drive-Thru RPG. This episode does include some violence, a depiction of a weird umbral creature, as well as references to, but not depiction of, animal sacrifice. If that's not your cup of tea, that's totally fine. It's only something that comes up in discussion once when comparing the morality of what the group did. And with that, on with the show. So, welcome to the world of Mage the Ascension. It is a World of Darkness game that, rather than being, to me at least, a game of modern horror, it is a game of urban fantasy. In this game, you play what are known as mages. You're super special, and by thinking real hard about things, you're able to change the world. You have what is known as an avatar, which is the portion of a person that, once properly poked and prodded, has the ability to change the world around them. The key contrivance in magic in the Mage the Ascension setting is all magic works. If you want to heal someone by using micro-robot nanites, if you want to use intercessionary prayer, if you have a magical poultice, if you want to call on the healing powers of Venus, all of these can work. Not necessarily for the same person, but all magic is real. The restriction on this is twofold. One, you have a personal level of understanding, which is represented by your arete. That is the power stat. That is the thing that's like, this is how much magic force I can magic. It is always rolled by itself. It's not like you would roll arete plus strength or stamina or dexterity or something like that, as well as your dots and spheres. There should have been a sphere quick reference that was sent out. I've tried to populate the character sheets with a bunch of standard rotes. This is a fancy word for a thing your character has probably done before, which is on the second page of the character sheet. And by taking a sphere level and describing how your character is doing something, you can generate a magical effect out the other end. Whenever you want to do a magical effect, tell me, and we'll work our way through it. Generally, the magical effect consists of kind of 3 parts. One is, hey Terry, my character wants to have this happen. And we go, do you have the dots? And if the answer is yes, we try and figure out a in-game way where it would happen. So for instance, say whoever is playing the Agent of the Fates, one of their focuses is chanting or singing. If their goal is to detect whether or not someone is lying, to use their focus to determine if someone is lying, they may start singing a children's rhyme while talking to this person under their breath. And as they're doing so, they build up this rhythm, and whenever the person lies, the rhythm of the children's song is broken. So we have the two parts that we need to start off. We have, do you have the right dots? Yes. Do you have a focus that will work? And then we get to roll some dice, and we see what happens. In general, in this system, you just need one success to make something happen. It'll be a minimal success, but it'll be a success nonetheless. The way we determine what number you need on the die is generally a combination of what the highest dot level of the effect is, plus the degree to which what you're doing is obviously magic. In this game, there's kind of 3 levels to that. One is coincidental. If somebody saw you doing this, they would be like, seems like a thing a guy could do. The next level is, if someone saw you doing that, you'd be like, that's some bullshit. But luckily there's no one around. And then the third level is, that's some bullshit, and there's someone around. And that's conveniently known as coincidental, vulgar without witnesses, and vulgar with witnesses. And they each have a difficulty tied to them. And that's kind of the process for magic. If you want to do an effect with someone else, if you're like, hey, I want to get in on this, John, you can do that. You just need a paradigmatic way to make it happen. You can't combine spheres across people. So if you want to use forces 3 to make a big fire, and the other person has corresponds 3 and they want the big fire over there, you can't like Wonder Twins high five and cause the fire to go up over there. As mages, at the end of the day, you are people. You are comparatively squishy. So vampires, you can hit them with a truck and they're like, I'm fine, I can take it, I got fortitude. I don't know how vampire works. I don't know if that's a thing. But,
you nailed it. That's
yes.
about right.
Yeah. More or less, mages are squishy. There are a few systems I likely won't use. For instance, initiative. In my experience in mage games, one person always kind of gets the drop on the other person. It's very rare that two people are like across a quad and they're like, I hate you. And the other person's like, I hate you too. And then guns are drawn. Almost invariably, someone is like, I'm going to begin this encounter by bringing down overwhelming force on the other person because I am squishy. And if they don't die immediately, I could get hurt. And I think that's a perfectly legitimate doing things. The game is set in contemporary Philadelphia. The Philadelphia part isn't hugely important. It just happens to be the city I know. What for? I live in Philadelphia. The time is roughly now. The advantage is there's no COVID. Additionally, this is a world of darkness, more or less, with no homophobia, no child abuse, and all animals are well taken care of. So the question is, Terry, in what way is this dark? To which I say there are ghosts everywhere. And that's more or less how I try and balance that out, because you're like, that doesn't seem very dark. So the next thing we're going to do is fill out lines and veils. Is that something this group is familiar with?
I've definitely heard of the practice.
Sure.
And I probably have done it before, but it's been a bit.
Yeah, so let's do it together. So the way this works is there are 2 types of restriction. I am reasonably collaborative in my storytelling. It saves me having to come up with everything. So periodically, I will hand the narrative football over to someone, and I'll say, Mordash, you're reaching out to one of your contacts, has information about organized crime. What's the name of your contact, and how do you know them? And that's now kind of on you. If you don't have an idea, we team build it. Again, it's a one-shot. If this results in the entire city being on fire, I don't know about you. Sounds like Mage. But one of the things we need to keep in mind with that is lines are material that you do not want to have come up in-game at all. We don't want them to be there, and we don't want references to them. So if you say child abuse, we will avoid even alluding to that. A veil is material that can be referenced or alluded to, but it's never going to be central focus. So at the end of the long story, you and your partner are back at home and you are glad to be in each other's amorous embrace. And that's where, if that is a veil for someone, and then we go and scene, or like fade to black as the bedroom door closes, where it is simply something alluded to. Or alternatively, if you're like me and you're like, what's not great? Torture. That is something where I don't want to see it come front and forward. But if you're like, I'm going to beat up this guy, I'm like, okay, I want absolutely no description on how that is going to happen. We are going to cut to the other side of this, where the person you're torturing is just a little bit beaten up or bruised, or like maybe there's a tooth missing or something like that. It certainly happened. We're recognizing that it happened, but we're not staring directly at it. And that's a veil. I'm going to pass out a link in chat to a Google Doc. Hopefully this will work. And just take a minute to add a line in Veil. You don't need to attach your name to it. The point is, these are just things that we all know. So let me drop that in Mage General. If you want to roll dice in front of you, that's entirely fine. I'm generally of the opinion that if you want to cheat during a one-shot, that's between you and your god. To listeners at home, we are filling in a list of things we don't like.
From an experience standpoint, this group is D&D V5 generally. We did do a Vampire 5 one-shot that Nazca ran. I think maybe a couple other of us have played previous versions of Vampire Mage, etc.
I've run this scenario around 20 times, and it's a team effort, and we all get through it, and there's a sense of accomplishment at the end, and sometimes you sink a boat. I think Mage is a big fun game, and my job is to show people that Mage is a big fun game. Or at least that's my personal goal. It's more about kicking the tires on the system than it is building a dense personal plot, mostly because that's like not where my skills lie. I will leave that to other storytellers. I think one of my favorite was when you run games online, you have a reasonable chance of having like international players participating. And there was someone with a thick Eastern European accent of some sort who was the modern witch. And I'm like, where does your character live? It's like, school. We're like, near a school? He's like, yeah. Why do you live near a school? And he's like, for food. We're like, for food? And he's like, yeah. We're like, okay, that went a direction. So, yeah, like noted. We team built our way through it. Like, anyone catch what he said? It's like, I think Dimitri wants to drop a steel plate on his head. He's like, no, 2 steel plates. We're like, okay. We got you.
Jason, did you warn him that we are not able to do one-shots in one shot?
I'm confident that Terry can pull this off.
Yeah. It's going to involve everyone on a sinking boat, and it just cuts to your next set of characters on the shore looking at them being like, look at those poor chumps. Too bad they couldn't magic their way out of that. It's not quite a case of railroading, but I will give tickets onto the plot bus, and if you don't want to get on the plot bus, that's on you, which makes me wonder, like, why are you playing? It looks like everyone has filled that out. We have a bunch of things that will not come up in the game. The next part we will have is if everyone can introduce their character. My goal is the following: to know your character, what your character's name is, kind of what their archetype is, the template they're off of, your name, and anything the rest of the group you think you should know off the top of their heads. Your name, character's name, the template, and how your character sees themselves. So you might be like, hi, I'm the Wizard of Time and Space. My character's name is Nathan Hendrickson. He's a medium height white person of slightly Asian extraction with longer than average hair and very mismatched clothing, who is constantly laughing and whistling at jokes that no one else can hear. They are very competent in correspondence and time, and has a fondness for the pentacle of Jupiter or something like that. So just kind of like your Mage OkCupid profile, as it were.
All right, my name, out of character, June, also Juniper, either or. My character's name is Robin Sparks. She is the cyborg concept pre-gen. What I've got for her is that she was a former Olympic team athlete who was in a unfortunate accident and has since then taken up prosthesis and robotics engineering. And that's how she first awakened, for the mage thing. She's very short, got very close cropped hair with a purple streak dyed through things. Very feisty.
For Robin, is there an outward sign that if someone were looking really closely, that someone could tell that they're a cyborg? This isn't going to be a narrative thing. It's not going to be like one of those things like, haha, I saw your secret eye laser.
No, yeah, understandable. She has her left arm and her left leg are both replaced with prosthetics. She's got one of those running legs, the little blades.
And maybe to the rest of the world, they just look like unusually good prostheses. It's not like Cable or anything from the X-Men or Forge, necessarily.
Oh, no.
Okay, cool. Jason, it sounds like you are ready. Jason, who are you and what you playing?
All right, I'm Jason. I will be playing Thomas Smith, the meme sorcerer, who is brown hair, blue eyes, fairly average-looking white dude, which I use as a descriptor because his whole persona is he realized fairly early, I'm going a lot of this from the history, which I think would help you all if you're having trouble. Look at the history of your character. He realized early on that he could just do things because people assumed that he could. And this was a lot more than your standard privilege of being a white dude. Things just seemed to always work out in his favor. And he's very much into movies and movie quotes and action movies and other annoying things that folk like this do.
What movie or meme do you think most recently captured Thomas's attention?
Most recently, well, I think he's currently on a stint of older movies.
Okay.
Because during dinner, my wife helped me with movie quotes, and I have quotes from like Total Recall and Cobra and other classic old action movies. Just go with Gladiator, I guess.
So at some point, hopefully you will shout, "Are you not entertained?" at some group of people. I look forward to that.
That is the plan.
Nafka?
OC, my name's Connor. I go by he, him pronouns. My character's name is Catherine McClellan, but she goes by Kat, and she, her. She's like a student at Drexel. Her parents live in like the main line, like they live by Delco, but she's coming in. She probably like a third-year college student, so like 21. She was studying philosophy, and she, off of like Tumblr, etc., got really into like occult stuff. She's kind of got a poor attitude because she's got the curmudgeon demeanor.
How do you think Catherine dresses?
I think she dresses very like more like hippy dippy, so like very like flowy and colorful dresses, and she has like curly hair.
What is the one topic over which Catherine is unusually earnest despite being a curmudgeon?
She gets very like upset at any kind of like situation she perceives as bullying of somebody else. Okay. So like if somebody's kind of like waving their dick around, she gets like very honestly upset.
So your character is likely kind of one of the locals here.
Yeah.
And I think that brings us to Mordash.
My name is Mark. Just to make it easy, my character's name will be Max. He is an eccentric. He's somewhere in his 20s, both age and appearance. Male. But his fashion style, you know who Kevin Roberts is from SNL skits?
Yes.
FBI Simulator.
He said, Googling it quickly.
So his look and kind of a little bit of his mannerism is like the Kevin Roberts character. But instead of like an orange jacket and stuff, he mismatches his clothes, but like in a very fashionable way. He has suit and tie and nice shoes, but you know the shoes don't match, socks don't match. He's very captivating, and he's about 6 feet, weighs about 180 pounds.
I was just gonna say, I looked this guy up. I'm getting real like game show host vibes.
Yeah, or the possible child of that person who used to wear like the Riddler things to tell you that the government would give you money if you read his book.
I would say his personality is not like Kevin Roberts, but his look.
Yeah,
like,
it's an aesthetic.
A little bit of his background. He had a streak of bad luck over the years through his teenagehood, and he had a lot of different close family members just die suddenly out of nowhere, like very randomly. And over time, he gave in to like fate and was like, all right, well, I'm just going to go with it. And he was an RPG player once, so now he has a set of lucky dice that he keeps in his pocket.
Nice. What fates do you think you are an agent of? It could be a member of the Theoi. It could be the Norns. It could be the Erinyes, the Avestian Yazata. It could be a modern incarnation in the form of Lady Luck. It could be Providence. It could be tied to St. Christopher or another synchronization with Christianity. When you think of the embodiment of fate, who do you think your character thinks of? And it can also be novel. It doesn't have to be drawn from one of the world's traditions.
I guess I think of him as like literally leaving things to chance. Like he likes probability and randomness. And so like that's why he likes his dice, because he could like, what do I want to eat? I don't know. I'm gonna roll for it.
Okay.
A believer in the RNG, random number generator.
Yeah, that would be him.
Your character may or may not draw from an actual world magical tradition. If not, that's fine too. If it is just a vague embodiment that your character believes that more or less the universe is a machine of some sort and they give themselves over to that, that's entirely fine. But sometimes people are like, I have this in particular. So, like, for instance, your character has the focuses of dreaming, chanting, or singing, odd behaviors that confuse and distract, and firearms. So at some point, if you're going to do something that manipulates chance, we're going to need to come up with a way of connecting those two. And there's a whole bunch of ways to do it, and once you do an effect, we'll figure it out. So the task at hand, you are part of a hastily assembled task force of available mages from the Council of the Nine Mystic Traditions. That is a in-world group that we don't really need to worry about. About 3 weeks ago, a attempt at taking down a group of kind of ghost cannibal sorcerers by the name of the Orphad Helidige, or those who feast on shadow, was done. After a long investigation involving claims of diabolism, murder, thefts of artifacts, and several other crimes. There was an attempt to destroy them in an umbral realm, which is to say a hideaway in the spirit world that the group used, and not quite everyone was captured in the process. You've discovered that the remaining members are laying low in Philadelphia in an attempt to kind of wait out the storm, and you have an idea that they are waiting for a particular celestial alignment that will allow them to more or less jump from the mundane side of reality in about 3 days. Your goal is to deal with as many of them as you feel you have time for and in the way you want to. So one of the notions in this game is you get to be the agents of justice. If you think someone is not that bad, don't worry about it. If you're like, this person needs to be nuked from space, everyone's going to be okay with that. This is a case where I'm going to just dump some text in chat, and then I'm going to speak a bunch of it out loud. And that way it is there for people who like to read with their eyes as opposed to read with their ears, because I think it's only polite to offer both. So the members of this group that you have been able to trace to the city of Philadelphia are 4 characters. So the first was a character by the name of Auric Dunth, the Forgotten Priest, who more or less is wanted for consuming the essence of a high umbral lord. There's this kind of umbral spirit by the name of Parthenax, who he ate in an attempt to gain power, which worked quite successfully. There is no mortal crime that is analogous to eating a spirit, because humans don't know that they exist necessarily, but the followers of Parthenax, the umbral lord he consumed, are very interested in getting revenge on him. The next one is Samantha Keene, who is someone who has been trading in artifacts, claiming that they were liberated, was fond of stealing them from museums, and then selling them to other mages and magical practitioners that she thought would give better use for them. Calamity, this kind of awkward, slightly off-kilter mage who was known for consuming what are known as bygones, which is magical creatures of various stripes, is known for kind of poisoning and despoiling places of natural magic, like driving cold iron into trees and sacred groves, and other kind of magical terrorism, as it were. Again, no analog in human crime. And the final one is the Shadow Mind, who seemingly offers people eternal life in exchange for several hundred years of servitude, for thousands of years of service, and has kind of been going around the country amassing kind of a personal death cult unto themselves. And you have a short period of time in which to pick who you want to go after. Within the time tonight, we probably have enough time for 1.5 or something like that. The way I generally like to do it is we will begin in media race for one of them, and the other we will kind of go through the process on. So the question then becomes, who do you want to go after, and what do you think your characters would think about it? If anyone has any initial thoughts, just shoot it out, and we'll figure out what the group wants to do.
I kind of do have an immediate thought, actually. This Auric Duff guy, I am not a fan of cults and people who try to use their stuff to control other people and manipulate them like that. That's a big no-no. So I say we go after that guy.
I'm for Auric or the Shadow Mind.
I'm good with Auric or Calamity.
That's 3 for Auric. Okay. I would lean towards Calamity myself, but we've got 3 and 2 though. So Auric it is.
Okay, so it sounds like Auric and Calamity were the two that kind of had the most. So if it's okay with everyone, if that is our agreement that we'll try and do those two, we will begin in media race with you tracking down Auric Dunth, if that's okay.
Yep, I'm fine with that.
So you have found that Auric Dunth has attempted to set up another cult in the city of Philadelphia who is attempting to consume some sort of angel by the name of the Unbegotten. You have traced this group's next activity to the Church of the Transfiguration. The Church of the Transfiguration is an abandoned church that is off one of the main streets in Philadelphia. This is where I will drop that map in. The map isn't hugely important. It's just one of those things where sometimes it's useful to just have a vague idea of what Philly looks like. We're going to do this in kind of a rapid-fire fashion going around the group. Mark, do you think your group went under the cover of darkness or during the day?
Under the cover of darkness.
Okay. June, do you think your group infiltrated as potential cult members, or do you think they did that thing where they came in through the skylight while this was actually happening?
That's a question. I feel like kick the door in is a fairly fun option.
Okay.
So I think I'm probably that, yeah.
Jason, what was the cool thing that you prepared ahead of time? It can't be like a huge, flashy, magical effect necessarily, but it's something that just in case thing that you prepared. It could be, you could be armed to the teeth. You could be wearing pants essentially made out of hand grenades. If you want to, maybe you called it into the cops. There's hey, we discovered this drug ring that is located out of here. What is that weird backup plan that you have?
Looking at the roads, I was actually kind of thinking that this is a backup plan if things go haywire.
Okay, cool.
I think I will need a moment to think.
Sure. If anyone has any ideas that they want to pitch Jason, by all means, please do. You could have a getaway vehicle. You could have multiple getaway vehicles. Someone could arrange a flash mob to appear and start protesting something. Suddenly in the middle of this, if things go haywire, a whole bunch of people suddenly have signs that say "Fur is murder" outside.
Oh, that's good. It's close to Franklin Square, so I do think something like a flash mob for not necessarily a protest though. It's going to be like a new refresh. It's going to be a 7-Up commercial flash mob.
Oh, nice.
It's supposed to happen at a particular time where it's going to be choreographed dancing.
That's amazing. Connor, when your character thinks violence is going to occur, what do you think they do to prepare for that?
They got 3 dots of firearms. They're packing heat. They got a handgun in their purse.
Okay, they're packing heat. Yeah, that's as I am fond of saying, you have access to the 10th sphere, gun.
Yes, of course. I cast bullet.
Yes, it's zero paradox, which is beneficial. There was a shipping dock that you backed up to that maybe one of you did one of the super cool things where it's I know how to pick this lock, and the other person just pointed at it and turned into rust and they blew it away. But you enter this kind of dank lower hallway. You've made your way in. There's this kind of kitchenette area that is just a standard regulation Protestant basement church kitchen, where it has this uncomfortably large refrigerator that could probably fit 6 children in the 70s when seemingly last it was used, and has the unnecessarily large door latch. It has 4 sinks that if you had to kill a cow or something you could do in it. I don't know what they were planning on doing with this kind of scale back then, but it existed. And then you can kind of see over the set of counters that in this set of black and white tracksuits, you can tell that this guy has really kind of fallen from the cults Auric Dunth maybe has led before. You can see on a catafalque, one of the platforms used to hold up a coffin, there's a table probably about 12 foot long and about 4 feet wide. And there is something under a sheet that is glowing faintly. And there is probably a half dozen people milling around the room, and they're just having spumante. So a remarkably bubbly, incredibly sweet, generally not terribly expensive kind of sparkling white wine. There is one figure with this absolutely massive, dusty tome that they are holding. You had the stereotype of of the Oxford English Dictionary, the single volume copy that you could get, and it looks like that had been aged 2,000 years. And these sheets are uncomfortably large. Each sheet is 11 by 17, and there is somebody that is kind of reading from it, this short, bald man that is doing something, and kind of you can see that there is this large clay bowl that he is daubing the foreheads of everyone in attendance with. Before the action starts, if everyone would like, you have more or less the ability to explain and justify one magical effect that you would kind of like to do that you think you could get away with from a church kitchen. There's a couple ways you can do this. You can walk in and you can threaten force. You can go in guns a-blazing, not being entirely sure what is happening. You can try some sneaky shit. All of these are perfectly valid. This is Mage the Ascension. Would anyone like to propose what they think the group's plan should be?
I think whatever someone suggests, I would want to predict the outcome of that plan.
Okay.
That cocktail, they're all drinking it, right? Or
They're
that's
all
what's being
drinking
served?
it. Yes.
Is it from one source?
It is from one source. It is one uncomfortably large bottle of spumante. It is giant. Like, the person holding it looks like a tiny person because, like, for whatever reason, very large bottles of wine are just like you held the corner in Photoshop, held shift, and just like made it bigger along all the axes. I never knew why they did it that way, but it is this massive bottle of inexpensive white wine, and people are sipping on it. It doesn't seem like it's ceremonial in any way. It just seems like people are nicely enjoying spumante. What's your idea?
I would like to. I have matter too. I'd like to poison it.
You'd like to poison it. So the tricky part with that is it's kind of over there, but you know what you do notice? Within the fridge, as you look over, the fridge is still on. There's probably more in there if you would want to do something with that. What's your thought? You said you wanted to poison it?
Yes, I would like to. If it's not the drink, so there's like hors d'oeuvre and shit in the fridge.
I think that's
Like,
reasonable that there's hors d'oeuvres and shit in the fridge.
Yeah, my character has like ancient poems as a focus, so she'll like whistle what in her head something from, like, I don't know, Homer would sound like to her.
Okay.
And she would like to have some, basically shift it into something. Could I do fatal but tasteless? Like, can I do some Princess Bride shit or no?
Fatal is going to be hard. You can turn the next round of hors d'oeuvres into Ipecac, so these people are going to be wrenching something fierce.
That is what I would like to do.
That's good. So your character, you gently sneak over to this fridge and you pull the latch down and it makes this loud thunk noise. And one person looks over, but they can't see you because you're obscured by the countertop. And when they look back, you pop it open. And so can you give me some like vaguely Greek noises that you think your character would whisper?
Latin, it's like Asatayam.
And you're whispering at it. Do you tell the group what you're doing ahead of time, or do they just see you person handling these hors d'oeuvres?
Yeah, because she doesn't want any of her group to accidentally eat any. She's gonna
Got
be
it.
like, she like air quotes, I'm gonna raid the fridge.
Got it.
Does she want me to check the outcome before we do it?
Can we hear the difficulty first? And then see if that's called for.
Let's walk through what Connor's having Catherine do. So it sounds like this to me is a matter 2, life 2 effect, or alternatively life 2, entropy 2. You're just doing a very simple hex here. If someone were to see someone eat these deviled eggs and then have a poor reaction, I don't think anyone would be surprised. I would argue it's vulgar if someone ate this many deviled eggs and didn't have a negative response to it. So the difficulty of that is the highest sphere level, in this case 2, plus 3 for it being a coincidental. So Connor, you're going to be able to roll, I believe, 5 dice against difficulty 5. So that is the difficulty of it. For the Agent of Fate, the way kind of predict an outcome is going to be is that is something where it can do one of 2 things. One, you can kind of use a form of precognition to see how it is likely to turn out and then do something different. So that would systematically represent itself by getting a bonus on some intervening activity. Or if you propose a plan, I can give you a rough idea of one way in which it may turn out. The goal here is to avoid the scenario that we're like playing the Tomb of Horrors, and before anyone does literally anything, you like throw a stick through the door to make sure it's not trapped in the form of using a time 2 effect. But more or less, that's how it would look. Connor, you're going ahead. You're cursing these hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah.
I assume you're cursing the hors d'oeuvres and then maybe like putting them over on the counter so someone goes, "Oh, look, hors d'oeuvres."
Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna make it front and center, so it's the next thing grabbed.
Nice. Connor, would you roll?
It's 5d5 difficulty 5. That's
The target
3
number
successes.
is 5. You got 3 successes.
Yes.
Whoever eats these is going to be relatively debilitated by it. You're probably not killing anyone, but these whoever eats it is pretty good chance, unless they're a big CrossFit fan, they're going to be down for a day.
Wonderful.
And they're going to be feeling it for a while. So you do that, you slide it over. Is there anything anyone else would like to do?
I have something I'd like to get ready to do once we're ready to get loud.
What do you think of June?
So, I'm looking at this giant tome and this bowl of water, and I'm thinking that's got to be this guy's like focus or something to do his magic and not have like much consequence.
Okay.
So, have you all played Bionic Commando?
Of course.
So
A long time ago.
basically, what I want to do is I want to try to yoink either the tome or the bowl away from that guy once we're ready to actually get loud and cause some chaos.
Okay. Got it. Do you see yourself doing anything magical to do that, or are you just saying, hey, I'm getting ready to do this?
I'm gonna like go to the group and say like, hey, I'm gonna get that guy's focus once we're ready to get loud. Just give me the signal, and I'm going to start modifying my arm.
Okay. You are ready to dunk from mid-court. That is good.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think
have
I
like a
would.
good idea of like the visuals too. It's like she there's like a little panel on the arm that she like kind of like folds back like a Nerf rifle, like a little plastic shutter thing, and she out of her backpack takes what looks like a large flywheel to like stick in there and like twist something on her wrist to like make some little booster things pop up from the wrists. So it looks like she's gonna like just rocket shoot it over and then reel it back.
I am going to systematically represent that by whatever successes you get on this effect. When it comes to the attribute plus ability check to see if it happens, you get those dice added to it. So the core conflict resolution system in this game is I will say, hey, what are you trying to do? You tell me what you're trying to do. I will say probably a trait plus trait roll that represents that. Generally, it's going to be an attribute plus an ability. Not always. It could be something else. I will indicate a difficulty, and for each dot in the appropriate attribute plus ability combined, you roll that many dice. If the die shows a number higher or equal to the difficulty, it's a success. If it shows a 1 takes away 1 success. There are rules if you roll no successes and you also get a 1, then something dramatic and annoying happens, but that's kind of more or less the core resolution system. The two other things you have to kind of put your back into things is, 1, you can spend a point of willpower to get an automatic success on your roll. No matter what, you will get 1 automatic success. It can still be canceled out by a 1, but it is impossible at that point for you to botch. Things can only go so sideways. The other secret thing that you have is, for magic, you should have a little quintessence paradox wheel at the bottom. The way that works is you can spend a point of quintessence, you can unmark one of the little X's to reduce the difficulty on a magic roll by 1. It's quite useful. And again, you should probably have about 3 of each, and it's a one-shot, so drive it like you stole it.
Cool.
So, June, let's have Robin roll for that. So you're doing this modification. This is this extended thing. There's weird parts coming out of nowhere. Jason, what does your character think about seeing someone visibly modify their arm with a flywheel they took out of a backpack?
I would say we've probably been hanging out together for a while, so I think that it's super cool. It's something similar to some shit I've seen in film. I would also say one of the things that my preparation thing would have been to do some Jedi mind stuff where I kind of made it so we could hear each other's voices or thoughts, so we don't have to actually talk about planning this out because we're actually stealthing into this place, which is a huge surprise for me because normally Mark is always kicking in the door. I was very much taken aback as a non-storyteller with Mark being like, no, we're going to stealth our way. I'm like, what? But anyway.
This doesn't fit the arbitrary story I made in my head that I didn't tell anyone about.
Right.
I find playing frankly terrifying. I don't know how anyone does it. You have done your Jedi preparation in advance, that you have your set of hand signals that might even be utter non sequiturs, that everyone kind of knows what they look like. What hand signal is the one you have for Let's Roll?
Let's Roll is going to be like the snap and point.
Before this kicks off, is there anything anyone else would like to do?
I think did Mark have anything?
Yeah.
I was gonna, I guess I would back June's character. Since I have a 3 with firearms, I would assume I probably have a gun with me, so I would...
On a scale of small, medium, or large, what scale gun do you think you have?
It would be a 9mm.
So small, medium side. Cool. So you have like a Glock 19 or something else like that. Ammo currently runs about 65 to 85 cents a round, thanks COVID. You have an advantage as an agent of fate. You can call upon the remarkably coincidental power of coincidence. Is there anything that you think your character did to make their gun particularly lucky in this case?
You'd probably sing to it a little song so that it would help him not miss the first shot.
What do you think that song sounds like? Do you think it's a pop tune of some sort? Do you think it's something that you've sang to your gun before? Is it a nursery rhyme? What do you think it is?
It's a beatbox, very not loudly. What's the opposite of loud?
Quietly.
Quietly.
Words are hard. One of my favorite ones was, what do you call a thing that a cannonball shooter shoots? So
that's totally me.
You're fine.
So he's like to his gun.
Okay, so you're beatboxing to your gun. So maybe you have this little ritual you do as you're loading up the individual rounds, and maybe you do a thing where you have blanks in there or something where you know ahead of time that the fourth round is going to be unlucky, so you just put a blank in there and you know to pull the trigger twice or something like that. Let's see ultimately what that looks like. So that is just entropy 2. That is coincidental. Someone may look at you odd if they saw you beatboxing, but that is a straight arete roll. I believe your character has an arete of 4, so you're rolling 4 dice against difficulty 5.
So I roll 4d10.
4d10. Nice. So you got 3 successes. So for the first shot you have for this round, the first like flurry that you're going to go out with, whatever your pool is, just add 3 dice to that. If I forget, please remind me.
And then can you pause briefly just to, so he rolled a 10, an 8, a 5, and a 3. So are you assuming difficulty 5, or are you doubling the 10?
That was difficulty 5.
Okay, sorry. I think I missed that part.
Not a problem. 10s generally don't do anything special unless you have a specialty in something, in which case 10s count as 2 successes. They don't explode. They don't, as a default, count as 2. I do kind of like the V5 method where if you get 2 10s, they count as something weird, but the first 10 is just like, who cares? That's just me. So it sounds like the plan is we've got a cyborg who is going to grab a book. You're going to wait for Command of the Witch to see the first person retch after consuming a particularly delicious tray of hors d'oeuvres. Once things start happening, Jason, what do you think you're going to wind up doing?
I think that I'm probably going to take a shot at what is probably the gas grill and hopefully hit it just right to cause an explosion, but I need to figure out who the real enemies
Perfectly
are first.
Reasonable. So the spumante is poured, the spumante is drank, and who in the process of this do you think is inadvertently going to be the loudest?
I would think the loudest is probably going to be Robin with the mechanical arm grabbing the bowl. At least that's the most vulgar thing that's going to happen.
Pardon me. During your prep process, let me say. But I think that's a good thing that Robin's biomechanical arm modification, there could be a point where a particular flywheel is being put in, and suddenly it's a little bit on the loud side. June, does that ring true with you?
Yeah, I was going to say it was probably... I was thinking originally, like, when you said loudest when we actually, like, get started. But, yeah, during this probably the modification Robin is doing.
So someone goes over to grab this tray, and in the process, they may overhear you doing this. Would you roll for me a dexterity plus stealth? If you think a different dice pool is appropriate, June, you are more than welcome to propose a different one.
Honestly, this feels pretty on brand. So,
difficulty 6.
Stealth, my dex is 3, my stealth is 1, difficulty 6. Let me roll those dice. I've got 1 success.
The person who went over to grab the tray of hors d'oeuvres has heard you and has kind of reached their head over and kind of, they do the thing where they look down, and you do the thing where they look up. And before they scream, you have like a quarter second to act. What do you think you want to do?
Oh boy, quarter second to act.
There's a couple ways that this can go. One of the things is you can kind of just do an oh shit effect out of nowhere, which will be slightly more difficult because you're doing a magical effect so hastily. Say, for instance, in that brief period of time, you want to grab the person's head and knock them out. You can very forcefully put someone to sleep with life 3. Or if you wanted to, you could use your medical nanites to seal the person's mouth so they couldn't physically scream. Or you can just yell, F it, and begin.
I don't want Kat's hard work to go to waste, so I'm going to try to go to sleep this guy.
So how do you think you do that?
I think what I do is just, like, I use my knowledge of, like, the way the physical body works, and some of my own physical strength to basically just pull him over the counter real quick and like kind of just slam on the ground to try to knock out.
Nice.
Put some magical oomph behind that.
That seems perfectly reasonable to me. So that seems like there's going to be a two-parter to this. One is putting this person to sleep. This kind of pudgy person wearing this black and white tracksuit who has far too many gold chains. Like, you could tell that this person thinks that this is fashionable, but it's really not. They're really not fooling anyone. So the first part to me of this is going to be a strength plus athletics roll to forcefully pull the person at the same time. Magically, what do you think you do to put them asleep? Is it kind of a Vulcan nerve pinch thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Basically.
And as you're pulling him, if this were a anime movie, you would yell Vulcan nerve pinch to indicate loudly what attack you were doing. Would you roll me a strength plus athletics roll?
Cool. I do have a specialty in strength. It is inhuman.
It seems like it would apply. If you get any zeros, that's going to count as 2 successes.
Cool. All right. So I have strength 4, athletics 2, so total 6 dice. All right. I've got, and what was the difficulty again?
7.
Got 2 10s and a 9, and the rest are lower than 7. So
you're good. Unless one die had 3 1s on it. You're going to be good. So everyone else sees Robin the android just rip this person over the countertop that was kind of going for this. And maybe it does the comical thing where like the dish of hors d'oeuvres spins. As you do that, you try and do this life effect. This person is not seeing it coming. You Vulcan nerve pinch them, and you very quickly put this person to sleep. Give me a roll of a Rite 4 against difficulty. I think this is going to look relatively coincidental if someone gets pulled over a countertop and slammed against the ground, that someone could just think that they are knocked out. So if you would give me a Rite roll against difficulty 5.
All right, so I roll a number of dice equal to my Rite, right?
Yep. So that should just be,
Right,
I think,
so that's
4.
4. And you said difficulty 4?
Difficulty 5.
All right, that is a 10, a 9, 5, and a 4. So 3 successes.
Nice. So you pulled this person over. It's probably a difficulty 6 for it being life 3. My bad. But you pull them over. You put it down. This person is immediately asleep. Does anyone have a reaction to seeing this, like, just beast mode action by the cyborg?
Is it all in the split second? Influencing a crowd, perhaps, to make them think that maybe this person didn't just flip over the counter and get knocked unconscious, but is actually standing there eating an hors d'oeuvre?
Okay. How do you think you would do that?
That would have to be, I think probably something would have to be physically present. I would have to pull out.
I think you can convince someone that they just make it seem like the person went to the bathroom or something like that. To kind of create the illusion that they're still there is going to be a little bit trickier. And you said you were representing that how? What was the focus in your mind for that?
Tossing the handkerchief onto the counter, but if I'm going to be disconvincing that they went to the bathroom, I might actually just toss the handkerchief towards where I think the bathroom may be as a symbolic, like they went this way.
Okay, so you're just kind of using that kind of misdirection. So that happens. Someone looks over, looks at the bathroom, wonders why, like, oh, Jim was supposed to get the hors d'oeuvres. He comes back, and holding the hors d'oeuvres, he comes back, someone, maybe this person's spouse, there is a comical amount of hair product in this middle-aged woman's hair. This is something where, like, if you were to throw a spear at this updo, it could possibly get caught in it. This person's haircut is a fire hazard. It's very concerning. But again, the same black and white tracksuit.
Is there like a candle or something nearby her hair?
If you want there to be, that sounds like something that can be conveniently inserted into the narrative, because when I think cults, I think candles. With that, as the tray comes back, the person with the tome kind of announces, the time of consumption approaches. Finish the spumante. And everyone does it, and it goes, this may take a while, so everyone have a snack. And someone grabs that tray, it goes back out to the group. What is the most pretentious but not actually impressive hors d'oeuvre anyone can think of? This is obviously a cult for yippies.
I'm thinking like the gray stuff. Comes up in the Beauty and the Beast song. They serve it at Disneyland. It's basically some, like, I want to say, like, probably in the movie, it's like some kind of pureed liver.
Oh, pate.
Oh, pate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pate is very pretentious. Yeah, I could see that.
I didn't know if you were making a reference to foie gras. We're like, we're not going to discuss cruelty to animals. I'm like, okay, I can live with that. So there's this pate, and it is remarkably pretentious. Like, it is something like Lord Basilford brand pate or something like that. And you can clearly see the Target logo that has been covered up, like whatever the Target house brand is, to make it look a little bit fancier. And people they have this and they start some sort of chanting. And with that, this elongated figure under the white robe just starts kind of making this pained kind of stirring noise. And you're pretty sure you can hear the rattle of chains. And this chant is going fine. And the group is kind of concerned, like, holy shit, we were supposed to stop this.
Yeah, I think I want to grab that book now.
Yeah, but as you're getting ready to act, you're pretty sure you hear the first person go, like, you know the way when somebody, like, talks through a belch? Mm-hmm. It is like that. Very quickly, this starts going poorly. And maybe out of the 11 people, because you still have this body that Robin has pulled over the counter.
Yep.
Let's say a little bit less than half of the people just start wrenching.
Like Stand By Me?
I'm not familiar, but do a whole bunch of people start throwing up and Stand By Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a gif. That is a potent gift.
No.
GIF. Good to know. Not a game of urban horror. This forceful ejection of pate is audible. And with the first splashing, you can hear the book close with a loud thump. The lights rise in the room, but it is not from the lights of the room itself. It is some sort of combination of the glow coming off of the person that was reading, who is kind of projecting this halo of eyes around him. So this person was maybe 5'9", not particularly tall, and was wearing this, again, black and white tracksuit. And above their head, there's now kind of this nimbus of eyes that are a weird collection of colors like green and purple and red, who are kind of looking around the room and that are going out from his head, that are just kind of trying to figure out. And he shouts something about interlopers and unbelievers in their midst. And at the end of it, he goes, "Somebody get an effing mop." And with that, some people start to scramble. What would the group like to do now?
I feel like I probably need to change my plan from grab book to rocket punch this man's face.
Okay, rocket punch. That is perfectly acceptable. Mark, you raised your hand. What's up?
Yeah, I would like the lady with the hair fire hazard. A lucky moment, I would guess. I don't know if that counts as a lucky moment, but lucky for us, like, she accidentally, like, catches her hair on fire as a distraction.
So doing something specific like that would be generally a forces effect, but you can more or less curse her such that something bad happens, and that may involve her hair catching on fire, if that makes sense.
So would that be considered like a lucky moment? I'm just looking at my road.
Oh, sure. So lucky moment would be for you. You have the ability to, with the entropy you have at hand, you could destroy an object. For instance, you could try and break down the catafalque that is holding up the creature. You could try and get the product in her hair to crumble or something like that. Luck in this case, you don't necessarily pick what happens. You just kind of get lucky. We represent that systematically. And if you get like 7 successes on the roll, then you get to be like, hey, here's the super cool lucky coincidence, if that makes sense.
Okay, well then I'm going to destroy the book.
Nice. You're going straight after that book. How do you think your character does this? Again, you have access to dreaming, chanting, odd behaviors, or firearms.
Firearms.
Okay. We're using the Ted sphere here. So it sounds like the action is going to start.
I don't know if this is possible, but just something in my head came up.
Go for it.
Can I shoot at a candle stand that knocks the candle stand and the candle falls on the book and burns it?
I think that sounds entirely reasonable. So the way this would work is you would do the effect, and then based on the successes, we'll figure out the lucky thing that did or didn't happen, if that makes sense. Like you don't have to call your shot, as it were.
Oh, okay.
So it sounds like Mark, in the guise of Max, is acting first. This is a magical effect that is kind of aiding a mundane effect. So you start out by giving me a dexterity plus firearms roll against difficulty 6. Nice.
Perfect.
Is that right?
Yeah. So you got 2 successes on that, but you're aiding this with magic. It's already built in. Give me an M4. So this is going to be difficulty 5. And we'll see if something wildly improbable happens in the course of this. So you get 1 success. That 1 cancels out one of them. So you have 1 magical success plus your 2 regular ones. So something mildly unlikely happens. You have struck the book in such a way that you've kind of hit the entire corpus of the page. You've hit down the grain of the book in such a way that it pushes it into the person talking, who has now fallen over backward. The beehive woman is now running around. A gun has been fired. And someone yells, "Someone has a gun!" Which is funny because, like, literally they were about to consume this some sort of umbral entity while people are throwing up, and the "someone's got a gun" is the thing that somebody chooses to yell. So you, at this point, there are 4 or 5 people, and the person who had the book is now kind of tumbled over backwards and trying to get up, but there are these weird disembodied eyes that at the fire of this, they all look in your direction, Max. They start flying over towards you. They don't do anything. They just stare at you.
They're not staring at my companions, though, are they?
Correct.
So can I jump over the counter so they focus on? Like, I don't want my.
Sure, you're distracting them?
Yeah.
Or you're drawing it away. So you jump over, a whole bunch of people look at you. Who would like to act next?
I would like to punch the man.
Okay. Mr. Robinson, I request kindly the offer to punch a man, and I would be a fool to deny this. So you're going to have to move a little bit to get there. You are able to move your stamina in yards without much difficulty. It's a little bit beyond that, so you're going to lose 1 die from whatever pool you do to do this bum rush and then go after him. What does the form of, are you trying to subdue them? Are you trying to just take the book? Are you just pummeling them?
Well, I'm just rocket punching this guy like a sucker punch style.
Okay. So the way this works is you're going to roll for the attack. It is dexterity plus brawl, since you're just using Jack Johnson and Tom O'Leary.
Yeah.
You did already do your arm swap earlier, which to me is better body. That is just something that is going to increase your punchmanship, to use the technical game term to describe that. So,
yes, absolutely. I'm familiar.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's in the core book. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to see how that magic effect did. Give me a roll of a Rete 4 against difficulty 6, and then however many successes you have, add that to just a dexterity plus brawl roll. Once again, difficulty 6.
All right, 2 successes, so I get two
more dice.
successes
So
you're
going to have a beefy handful of 8 dice for this attack. So this is an interesting one. We have a magical effect that is feeding an attack roll, which will then feed a damage roll. So this could theoretically get big. We'll see what happens.
All right, so I'm rolling 8 dice.
Yep.
All right, and what's the difficulty on this?
Difficulty 6 for this guy as well.
Difficulty 6. So of my 8 dice, I've gotten 5 successes, and 2 of them are 10s.
You do your strength plus 2 in damage dice, so
That'll
1
be
extra.
6 damage dice.
Yes, 6 damage dice plus any successes you had from the previous one and once. So it sounds like you have 11 dice to play with.
Oh my god!
Is this overly complicated? Yes. Is this the World of Darkness? Yes. Do I apologize for it? Yes. Do I encourage people to use homebrews? Hell yes. But again, I'm the Mage the podcast guy, so I feel compelled to do what the book tells me. So let's see what that beefy thing goes for. You are a cyborg. Do you think this hand is flesh? Do you think it is steel?
It's definitely like some kind of like polymer with like a carbon steel like inner framing.
Do you think it's closer to it being hit by like a police truncheon or a lead pipe?
Ooh, probably police truncheon actually.
Okay, cool. Roll your 11 dice. Difficulty 6 here.
All right, I don't have enough d10s, so this is going to be in the roller.
Nice.
Oh.
Wow.
So 2 cancel, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4. But your 10s are doubled. You have the specialty of Inhuman, and you're literally punching an inhuman person. I'm going to slightly misinterpret that to make it work. That's 6 successes. You have done damage well in excess of this person's stamina rating, and you, to use the technical term, you cold cock them.
Hell yeah!
And they are out. The book is out. You are left with, there are now 3 problems on the board, by my thinking. The person that Max subdued is going to be waking up soon. There's a bunch of people that are kind of terrified as to what's going on. And then there is this creature that they were trying to eat that is stirring on the table. Anyone who hasn't gone yet, what would you like to do? So I think that gives us...
Yeah, I've got like a pretty high charisma and empathy. I don't have any mind, but I do have life. I would like to I have no idea what this thing's pretty, but I'd like to I don't know, turn some of the hors d'oeuvres, make flowers grow off them and try to soothe it so that the creature doesn't start getting hostile.
That is perfectly fine by me. Jason, have you acted yet?
Have not.
Okay, and what do you think you're up to?
We have people running around. We have a woman shouting about there's gunplay. There is a lot of robot arm punching. No one else seems to be in this split second reaching for their own weapons or anything of that nature. And then we have...
It seems like it is a lot of very scared yuppies. You can also do things like shout a command, like everybody effing leave, especially if it's tied to a movie quote.
Right.
That would be great. If you want to yell the apocalypse has been canceled or something like that, everyone would be like, okay. Not entirely appropriate, but still kind of gets the point across.
I am going to yell, "Get off my plane," from the classic Air Force One to try to get everybody to run out of the room.
Okay. Is that a magic thing to you, or is that literally just what you're yelling? Either one is fine.
I think it's a magic thing because it works in the movies.
Okay.
In the movies, the hero shouts something with force and with gravitas, and people listen.
Okay, that sounds like a mine 2 that you're just getting everyone to flee. So give me an arete roll, difficulty 5.
Oh no!
And I think I want to let that. I think I want to let that play to see what happens.
Oh, you just failed. Nothing crazy happens.
Oh, okay.
So it is only a botch if you had no successes. Since this is difficulty 5, you had 1 success. It prevents it from being a botch.
I yelled, "Get off my plane!"
And everyone just looks at you. The people who are not are like, "What plane?" And then they hear,
This is a church.
"Yeah, sir, this is a Wendy's." And then the creature that has been down starts kind of getting up. And this is the part where you kind of see the sheet that was covering it slip away from it. This creature is probably about 9 to 10 feet tall, has no head, but has a torso and legs and 4 arms that are floating a little bit off of the body, as if there were several shoulders that were invisible. As it kind of props itself up, this marble white creature kind of extends 1 or 2 of its arms. It reaches out and it grabs the eyes that were looking at Max and just kind of crushes them. And then with 2 other arms, grabs one of the cult members, for lack of a better term, and just kind of very quickly picks one up and just kind of smashes it against the ground in a forceful way that you can hear this person probably isn't getting up. We'll put it that way. But just kind of with this overwhelming force, and is slowly starting to bring itself up. What you know as mages is this creature probably isn't going to be able to go on some sort of rampage. The moment it kind of gets out into the light of day, the power of everyone else's unbelief, just the sheer crushing banality of reality, is probably going to very quickly snuff it from existence. Things that obviously violate what everyone thinks is possible, especially in dense urban areas, tends to very quickly be crushed away. So your options are more or less to flee, to try and speak with it. Anyone that has access to a cult or anyone who has access to the spirit sphere is going to be able to do that relatively easily. Or you can attempt to try and kill or subdue it. Probably not the best option, but hey, violence is always an option, even if it isn't particularly good. And with that kind of cracking of bone, what few people are not wrenching just kind of run for the exit. Is anyone going to try and stop them?
No.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just let him flee out to the night. So you have Orc Dunth, who is still down on the ground. You have this creature that is slowly rising to its very intimidating full height. Again, no head, 4 disembodied arms kind of unstuck from the body that seem to trivially be able to grab those multicolored eyes. You are welcome to flee. You're welcome to do something else.
Do I know anything about it since I have a high cult?
Yeah,
religion?
Let's give that a roll. If you would give me an intelligence plus an occult roll, please. This is something you may not have run into before, so I'm going to say this is a difficulty 8. I think you get to roll 7 dice on that. You get no successes on this. You have no idea what this thing is. You are more than welcome to try and use Spirit 2 to reach out to talk to it, though, if you would like, which your character has, I believe your character has access to.
I have Spirit 2.
Yep. How do you think you would talk to it?
I'd probably just talk to it out loud.
Okay. What do you think your focus, though, is going to be for this?
So
So it could be to get yourself in the mind of talking to a spirit. You could start moving very confusingly. You could stunt and stutter your speech. You could, for instance, try and talk backwards or something like that.
I'm going to try to mimic it.
Okay.
To like Like, I have no shoulders.
I hope you're not like, ear, I have no shoulders. Look at me. I'm 12 foot tall and I was going to be eaten by a cult. That could end very poorly. You're like, well, it just crushed a human being. What do? Let's piss it off. You go through that. So while Max is doing that, is anyone else attempting to do anything? You still have this knocked out Auric Dunth on the ground.
I mean,
We have
probably gonna
Connor's-
make sure he's restrained.
We have Connor's flower thing, right? That might not have done anything.
Mm-hmm. So you have this flower offering, the tray that previously caused people to upchuck. It now looks lovely. It is something you've created, something Pinterest worthy. Connor, what do you think a curmudgeonly flower arrangement looks like?
I think it's like chrysanthemums, and she's like snickering because she seems kind of pretentious.
Okay.
It's like, oh, it's a funeral arrangement.
Okay. And you kind of hold this up while Max is trying to reach out to this thing. Would June or Jason like to in some way address the knocked out cult leader on the ground?
I'm definitely gonna like try to tie
Okay.
and gag him.
Let's presume you have that. What do you do that with?
I do carry around. So one of the wonders I have is digit tools, which is an array of micro tools and small items that are embedded in one of my hands, include a small torch, light, caliber gun, something I can choose. So basically, like, pop open a compartment on my arm and it's a bunch of zip ties.
Or you do that thing where like a fingernail comes back and you just pull this thing out and people are like, oh no, she's going to decapitate someone again. And you're like, no, this is just zip tie. Stop. Cool your dick. You have quickly bound Auric Dunth and you've done the standard. You've taken one of the vomitous people or the person that was maybe smushed into the ground, grab the tracksuit, shove it into the person's mouth. Mages can be remarkably difficult to declaw. So this could be something that pops up if Auric attempts to start doing anything.
But I'm also just like, not
Yeah. You'll have a chance.
I'm taking care of this. I trust the rest of my team to deal with the angel in the room.
Can we all address the angel in the room? So, Mark, if you would give me an arete roll for your character's attempt at spirit communication, that's just going to be arete 4 against difficulty 5. So you reach out to this creature and you start speaking to it and you start mirroring its body movements and you get the intense sense that this thing is angry and it wants to kill everyone present.
Oof.
What do you say in response to it?
What will appease you?
And it simply replies with the destruction of those who would steal my freedom and consume my head. So it seems like this creature used to have a head, is now missing.
I was going to say, it was
Yes.
headless, right? So they've already done
like, they started dinner early.
I wonder if the pate was.
That
made
would
from
be
this.
awkward.
That was my unfortunate thought. Is like, well, whatever they consumed, it's out now.
I guess just say, why don't you go back to sleep and I'll go find your head.
And it just looks at you and goes, Gillamathica requires no rest. And with that, the creature kind of rises to its full height now, which you're pretty sure is higher than it was before. And now you're pretty sure that there are 8 disembodied arms. And it is starting to just kind of tear apart the building you are in, looking for its head.
What did you say to it, Max?
I just asked what I wanted. And then I asked if it could go to sleep. It's
You
someone
asked
like
the weird angel thing to go to sleep?
Well, what is it?
no.
What is it?
It wants its head back, but
That's
it's not-
Offer it dead.
I did offer it the head. It didn't care. Can
Well,
we destroy the
maybe-
building and just jet out of here?
As it destroys it, you are perfectly willing to just kind of jet if you like.
Does anyone have like a destruction?
Oh, I don't think you
spell?
need it.
Just, like,
So one rule of Mage, nothing is called a spell. So that's our one rule. Everything is in fact, you're fine. It is the one we don't. This game doesn't have mana, and there are no spells. And that is the two things that makes Mage different from every other Wizard mana game. Your vote then, Max, is to just book. Okay.
Yep.
This is so very far outside of my specialty too, and as much as I would like to save this rare and very endangered magical being, this is that I make robots. I make robot
This is remarkably
arms.
unrobot-like.
I don't deal with angels.
But
Yeah.
counterpoint, as we are running out of time, I think, there is the whole reason we're capturing Auric, which we do have, is to bring him to trial or justice for the crimes he's committed. And we're kind of unleashing this thing on the city if we leave it. We're a little bit responsible
Probably, it's one of those things where it's not like you've unleashed a kaiju. It is likely that, though, it will kind of get out into the world and just kind of be crushed by the force of unbelief.
It's going to war the world.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
All right, well then we probably should ditch.
As we ditch, I would like to accelerate the decay of the building falling into itself.
Okay, so how do you think your character does that?
It would shoot a bullet at it.
Okay, I think one bullet might be insufficient, but maybe you do something where you're like, on your way out, you tell everyone to grab as much of the crappy blue wallpaper as possible and to just kind of tear it down behind them as they go, or something like that. Or maybe you shout something to Robin to be like, punch that pillar, and then you're like, Catherine, I need you to upturn that table. That you're just kind of setting the chaos in the room such to do that. And maybe your last thing is you go behind you and you shoot the building. That way we can have the dramatic single bullet collapse. How does that sound?
That sounds perfect.
Incredible.
Give me an arete roll, please. I'm going to say this is vulgar without witnesses. All the other people have fled, and kind of this weird 8-armed umbral 12-foot tall creature, it's certainly not a witness. So this is difficulty 7. You have an arete of 4. Remember, you can blow a point of willpower to get an automatic success, or spend a point of quintessence to reduce the difficulty by 1.
Oh, I want an automatic success.
Nice. So you spend that point of willpower, you rage bullet behind you, so you got 2 successes. So you can hear the creaking of this building, and with that, as you go out, you slam the door behind you after you fire the shot, and you can just kind of hear the celestialry of this church kind of collapse. Like, you have the first set of slanted eaves, and then above that you have a set of glass windows, and above that you have a second roof. And as you slam that door, that second set of roof rimmed by the glass just kind of collapses down. And as it does, you look back and you don't see a 12-foot tall angel poking out. So you're pretty confident it's gone in some way. And now you've got this Auric Dunth character. What would you like to do with them?
Well, first I blow off my gun the most fancy way possible.
I just look over at Jason's character for a second and roll my eyes. I'm like, go ahead, see the thing. I know you got a thing to say.
Good. Why do you think I have a thing?
Yeah, you always have a thing to say.
I'll just turn to the building and say, consider that a divorce.
I hate you.
That's from total Recall, if you're keeping score.
I like the idea of, like, for our patrons, I've removed Jason's bad jokes, if you would like to. So you have this character, this 5'9" person who is currently gagged and is trying to fidget with their hands and do something, and is trying to pull something out of their pockets.
Okay, I would like to stop that, and I think I have an idea.
Okay.
For focuses, some of my stuff includes like experimental tools and procedures and mechanical and medical tools. I would like to pull out basically like a skin patch, slap over mouth and hands to just fuse together to prevent movement, prevent somatic or verbal stuff from happening.
The complication then is, if you want to talk to them, you're going to need to find a way to do that.
I mean, do we really have much to say to them? We kind of want to just turn them in, yeah?
Do we want to know where the head is?
Too late.
I think that should say it, buddy.
I think the head door is closed.
Look, I wanted the spirit alive too, but I don't know about that.
You have successfully silenced Auric. So what do you think your next step now is going to be? As you are having this conversation, you feel a nimbus of cold blue flame kind of ripple across you. As you look behind you to see what caused this, you can see a cloud passing by that very clearly looked like that headless 8-armed angel that you were just exposed to. And you're like, probably fine. So, still down ahead, but that's what future sessions are for.
Yeah. Listen, we'll burn that bridge when we get there.
What did you want to have happen with Auric Dunth? What do you think the punishment befitting him is? This is something the group gets to describe. You have the following options. You can brand him which is a magical process by which he more or less wears a dunce cap, and everyone kind of knows what he's done and where he is. It's the Nathaniel Hawthorne book that no one actually likes, the Scarlet Letter solution. Yeah, you can Scarlet Letter. You could maim or disfigure the person if you thought that was just. You could kill them, or you could try and do something else.
How familiar are we with the other traditions?
So this is a case where the power's in your hands. There isn't really another thing you can turn them over to.
Okay.
Do you want to ask the fates?
So what you could do, the other thing you could do is you could try and reach out to the followers of Parthenax, who was the cult whose leader they had previously destroyed. They will more than likely see to his demise in a way that is highly unpleasant.
I like the idea of flipping a coin and having him flip it.
Okay, so we've got some Anton Chigurh action going on here.
That's
What
a
if-
bit heavy.
What if we simply execute him? Like, it's the best he's going to get.
Yeah.
That's like the nicest, but like most meaty way. He would be stopped in the future.
I think off with his head.
I kind of didn't realize that this was so very much in our hands. I kind of assumed.
It is entirely in your hands.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that we were grabbing him to turn him over to a group, and like
I felt similarly, but I mean, we can.
I mean, we could and just get that. It says he's got a price on his head. We could throw him in, let them decide, and walk away with whatever.
I am merely indicating that based on what you know from your experience, again, they will. You can certainly turn him over to the followers of Parthenax, who will result in his very untimely demise. So if it makes a moral difference to you, that is fine, and that is kind of the discussion I want the characters to have. Mage doesn't have a morality stat. There is no humanity to roll, which means the morality is reflected in the world and the fact that your character quite simply has to live with choices. There is no way to systematize it away to be a humanity check.
Max is all about leaving it to the fates. So I would either want to ask the fates, or I'll say let's
do we
flip
want
a
him?
coin.
I'm not so super interested because, like, if a mage really wants to, like, they really can. So I think we should probably just cap him and call it a day. Because if we brand him, they'll find him later. Probably that'd be the nicest way to.
Right.
He can't do anything anymore, and he won't be soul tortured by some ancient wizard.
But maybe he deserves the soul torture, though. This is his second consumption crime.
I don't know. Kat probably does not think anybody deserves soul torture.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the most humane thing we could do would be to just off him quickly.
So Kat is of the opinion that to turn Auric over would be a fate worse than death. Is that a good way of putting it?
She is almost certain that it would be.
Max wants to leave it in the hands of the fate. Max, what do you think the two sides of the coin that you want to flip are? If you're flipping that coin, what are the two sides of the coin?
Either bring him over to the Parthenax people, or I'll just shoot him in the heart, and hopefully it looks like a heart attack with my magic.
Oh, that would be pretty badass. That it's one of your blanks and you just cause a heart attack?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty BA. Jason, what were your thoughts? Sorry.
I would agree with Kat. I think that fate worse. It is definitely a fate worse than death to have him tortured at the hands of. I mean, he probably deserves it because he's doing a little bit of the cannibalism here. I mean, I wrote down very emphatically when you described them as ghost cannibal sorcerers, because that's a little bit BA. Steal your turn.
You're that's a sentence.
Yeah. I definitely think that he needs to be ended, but we're not the same kind of monsters they are. So
yeah, I think basically Robin's opinion on the situation is they're the bounty hunters here, not the judge and jury here. Basically, Robin's opinion on the situation is they're just the bounty hunter cashing in on bringing this person to justice to the people who need to punish him.
So it sounds like we have two people that are heartily against turning him over, one person, in this case, Robin, that is in favor, and an agent of Faints who isn't sure. I don't know about you, but this sounds like there may be a coin flip involved.
You may do that. And Kat goes, I will, of course, abide by the laws of chance. And she'll lick her thumb and bite it to influence the coin to go towards killing him instantly with
Okay.
entropy too.
So the way I see this going down is you have the coin that is being flipped. You are trying to influence it. So this goes up. So if it lands in favor of heads, my mental image is the coin lands, you flip it over on the back, and without even looking necessarily at the result, if it comes up death, you just pull the trigger.
I don't hesitate. I just like right in the heart.
Cool. So Connor, do you want to give me a roll, an entropy 2 roll to influence the outcome of a coin?
So that's going to be 5 DC 5?
5 against difficulty 5, yes.
This is entropy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
I
just...
also have a dot in entropy. Would that be enough to do anything to like sense that cat here is trying to bend the rules a bit?
You are more than welcome to use counter magic if you would like to. You have entropy 1 that would allow you to do it. So is your goal to see if somebody is influencing it, or is your goal to try and do something with the outcome of the coin flip?
I just want to make it an actual fair coin flip.
So yeah, it sounds like counter magic. In that case, that is just you're rolling against difficulty 8 to stop the effect, June. Difficulty 8 versus difficulty 5 in this case.
I will expend... Now, my sheet has 2 things of willpower. It's a couple dots and then 3 squares.
Mm-hmm.
What is my actual willpower? Like, how much do I have?
You are unclicking the square.
I'm unclicking the square.
Yes.
I understand. Okay. Yeah, I will spend willpower and then... Is that one of my dice is a success, or I roll 5 and I have a success on top?
You roll 5 and have a success on top.
And what am I rolling? A rete?
Arete against difficulty 8, yeah.
Rete against difficulty 8. I will also expend willpower.
I just hope somehow this botches all around, the coin just explodes and Oric gets away or something like that.
Got an 8 and a 10 for successes.
I get 0. I have 2 1s, a 6, and then my willpower.
That certainly could have been interesting. So the fair coin lands. I am going to represent the hand of fate, if that's acceptable. And it seems like it's going to be even. He is shot. Odd. You turn him over. It's a 2. So as that coin comes down, it lands in Max's hand. The gun, I assume, what does your character look like? Paint me a word picture of how this unfolds. Like, what do you think his stance is as the coin is done? Do you think the gun is already drawn?
No, the gun is not drawn when he flips the coin.
Okay.
He's ready. His hand is like right there.
Okay, his hand's on it. Oric's eyes are darting back and forth with this patch of skin over his mouth between the coin as it arcs, your hand, and the subtle movement of probability that you can kind of feel shift. With such swirling of it, maybe briefly every piece of paper in the area all blows back to form the torn up pages of a phone book that was around it, or briefly a portion of the corner of the building that had crumbled falls back into place. Nothing immortal would necessarily go anything beyond, hey, that's weird, but you can very much feel as this is surfaced. So that coin comes down. What kind of coin do you flip? Do you think it's anything special? A JFK 50-cent piece, a Susan B. Anthony dollar?
Just a penny that I found on the street a long time ago and put it in my pocket.
So you have your lucky/unlucky penny as the scenario deems. It lands on the side of death. What do you think your character does at that?
Without any hesitation, he pulls out his gun, puts it to his chest, and pulls the trigger, puts his gun back, and walks away like nothing just happened.
We've had our Anton Chigurh moment. As you had mentioned, this is a case where we're going to fudge the rules. Normally it would be entropy 4 to be able to cause heart attack, but I do like the idea that you pull the trigger, they expire, and then everyone else is thrown off by the fact that there is no bullet hole.
It's like the Big Lebowski. Fuck.
Yeah. I think Robin definitely just flinches and just lets out a quiet, Jesus, fuck.
You now have a dead body. What are you going to do with it?
He had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Leave it.
Okay.
He's also got,
Just leave it.
he's also got his hands and mouth bound in fake flesh. So
Correct.
Oh, we'll take that
As
off.
I said, there's no morality system, but the world will remind you of what you've done.
Yeah. Oh God. In that.
To cover it up, can I knit the flesh with life 2 and matter 2?
Sure. The person is now dead. You need only matter to manipulate the form.
Oh, right.
I'm being a little bit dramatic. It's been like 30 seconds. You would still probably need both, but still, I get
Sure.
to add
I
that
have it
oomph across.
anyways.
Yeah. It's not like we're worried about this. You unknit it, this dead character in your arms. Quite simply, do you leave this body next to an abandoned church, or do you do something else with it? There isn't a right answer. This is me exploring. Your characters have made a weighty choice. How are they going to see it through?
I would think we just leave him in the streets. That's where he died.
I'll call some of my ritual assistants, unless June has something.
I was gonna say, like, we should probably do something because, like, yeah, he died of a heart attack, but also, like, we've handled this man a bunch.
Oh, if your worry is about deniability, that's something where Life 2 Matter 2 could easily remove all traces of you from the presence if you wanted to.
Cool, yeah, I would probably, like, just make sure you could not be traced to us, like, via forensics.
I'll call my ritual assistants and be like, I got fresh parts. Who wants some?
Okay.
We got eyes, we got fingernails, folks.
In due time. What is the name of the ritual assistant that comes by to visit you?
I think she calls herself Lucretia, and nobody has ever asked what her actual name is, but that's what she goes by.
Okay, how is Lucretia dressed? Give me a little thumbnail sketch of Lucretia.
She is like a witch, and she knows it. It's like black. She looks like Morticia Adams, but like a little bit more down to earth. Like she's not a celebrity, but like black dress, black hair. It's a little wet, and she rolls up.
Do you think this is something you've done before, where you've just kind of proffered a human body to Lucretia?
No, but Kat knows that she'd find that valuable. I don't think Kat's killed anybody, but I think that Kat would know that she would find it valuable.
Do you think this is the first person Kat has seen die at functionally their hands?
Yes.
Do you think Kat is shaken by this, or do you think this fits into the...
Absolutely. She's got, like, empathy 3. Now she's a little shaken.
So Lucretia rolls up in her Buick, and the window rolls down. Does she know you as Kat or by another name?
Probably Kat, or she'd say Catherine.
So Lucretia gets out and draws herself up to her full height, and somehow, despite the fact that it is still at night, that strip of light is illuminating across her eye, maybe as light filters through that fallen church, and goes, you said you had something for me to pick up. What do you got?
Yeah, so what I have for you, his name was Auric. He expired by natural causes. Wink. I don't want to think or worry about it, and I will get you... She's a contact, right, in technical terms?
A ritual assistant is something you can use to actually create, like, large effects. Like, they're backups, but you have your occult contacts, so let's just say it's one of those. Yeah, this would probably be the occult
contact. We're both kind of doing each other a favor here, like, you're getting parts and, like, helping me out here, and...
Yeah. Does anyone have an idea for a good name for kind of a pagan or dark force that Lucretia has it in for? Like, what's a good name for kind of a dark god?
The Horned King.
Okay. So you're like, I have an offering for the Horned King?
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
And with this, she kind of looks at it, and let's just see how she responds to this. She tries to keep it together. And it is very obvious that she is acquainted with the notions of death and maybe even the notions of blood and sacrifice, but she is not acquainted with a reasonably warm human body. And she just kind of starts freaking out and is like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
Charisma.
You killed someone. Holy fuck, you killed someone.
Charisma, okay. Empathy.
Okay.
I'm going to calm her down.
Sure. This is going to be difficulty 8.
Understandable. Willpower.
And she looks around the group and sees this kind of misfit collection of people. So you've spent your point of willpower. How did the roll turn out?
2 10s don't matter, but 2 successes, no ones.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so 2 successes, no 1, 3 successes. So you're able to calm Lucretia down, but it's very obvious that her hands are trembling, and she's able to calm down at this, and she just looks at you and goes, "What the fuck do you want me to do with a body? This is a whole body."
Make an offering to the Horned King, don't you? I mean, I know that you like burn. She's a lot more of an empathetic person than I am, but like, you know, he was a very bad person. In a way, this is more moral than like sacrificing or an animal, which I know that you do. So
I think Robin's just like, kind of dealing with her own little bit of a freak out of that herself as well. Just like,
Okay, what's that freak out look like, do you think, for Robin?
it's more just like taking a few steps away from the group and just like finding something to lean on, closing her eyes a bit, and just like doing some breathing exercises, finding her zen a little bit.
For the first part of this scene, you have walked through the process whereby you were magic people, you interfaced with magic, you saw an angel, and now you have this moment where you're very much being faced with the raw humanity of there being a dead body in front of you. This friend of a friend who has borne witness to it, who has more or less just reminded you that you have taken a human life. You as an android, there's only so much you can separate, as it were, the meat from the metal. That is something that's having a bearing on you. Max is utterly unshaken by this.
Oh, and he's kind of like standing in a way to like look good in a flirty way with Lucretia, just trying to get her attention.
I think like because of that, that's like definitely like one of the things that was kind of like put down in the history is like, you know, showing that even though I'm a cyborg, I've not sacrificed my humanity, but and beyond it. I feel like it's more like her view on it is that just because she's had to replace some parts of herself because she lost them due to tragedy doesn't make her any less of a person. And I think like this is a reminder of that to her, that she is kind of reacting a bit more normally, I think, to this situation than some pure flesh and blood folks in this group are, which is a little bit of a cold comfort.
What does that look like for Robin?
I think it's just mostly just like a mental, just kind of like, basically that's her thought process on the whole thing. That's like basically the mantra she's like going through in her head, the logical, like, if X means Y, etc., etc., etc. thing that she's telling herself to like try to pick out a silver lining from this kind of tense situation.
Jason, how do you think Thomas is responding to this?
Thomas thinks that specifically that Ulrich had this coming, and Ulrich actually got a merciful end compared to what he probably deserved. So, and I also feel like Thomas thinks that Kat's underling, or whatever is happening here with Lucretia, is brought here to do a specific thing that she doesn't want to do. So Thomas is at the point where he's going to literally do the Jedi mind trick and wave his hand and say, "This is just like a cat, deal with it," and use a mind effect on her.
Okay. I am going to say that she does not notice this effect. She is not sealed in any way against mind magic. So this is just something where you're going to need to roll one success for it to work. Just a mind 2 strong mental compulsion. Take it away. So would you please give me an arete roll?
Versus diff 6, it's 2 successes.
How do you think you did that? What do you think that looked like?
I think that Thomas literally would have sort of walked between Kat and Lucretia, like politely, like, "Excuse me," to step between, but then waved his hand in front of Lucretia and said, "It's just like a cat. Like, let's do this."
Okay. At that, she kind of shrugs. She starts dragging the body across the ground. It's obvious that she's not able to lift it herself to get it back into the boot of the car. Is anyone going to assist her?
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
And we are definitely going to notice that Terry said the boot of a car instead of the trunk.
I'm very tired. So you load this body into the trunk of the car. The thing closes, and Lucretia looks at Kat and goes, and does that kind of thing where she just goes, "Hey," as her way of saying, "Be seeing you."
Oh, yeah. I salute.
And with that, the body drives off. I don't know about you, but that feels like a real satisfying emotional end. If that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm going to have difficulty. So congratulations. You've played a mage. Thank you for listening to Mage the Podcast. I have no clever outro. If this happens to be your first episode of Mage the Podcast, we're a podcast that covers Mage the Ascension. For more information, visit us online, magethepodcast.com, or at Mage the Podcast on Twitter. If you really enjoyed it or really didn't, shoot us a message, magethepodcast@gmail.com, or drop by our Discord, discord.me/magethepodcast. The executive producers that made this special episode possible include Anders S., Andrew Edelstein, Andy, Berto, Boogers to the Sixth, Brado the Blue, Brendan Morrill, Bryce Perry, Chris Sack, Dan Svensson, Dennis Osborne, Entropy_Frime, Freddie, Garga Lenoir, Guy Conan Stewart, Ian, Isabella Castillo, Jason Kennedy, Jason W. Biggs, Jay Suncern, Jeff Hua, Jenna F., John Horton, John Magnuson, Josh Golden, Josh Hillerup, Josh Heath, Carl Halperin, Leslie Weatherstone, Michael Creedle, Michael Parker, Nabero, Neil Patterson, Nikita Klamanoff, Ralph Scheinhammer, Richard Bat Brewster, Ryan Hilton, Ryan Kendi, Sam Tobin, Stephen Carton, William Connolly, William Martin, and W. Starter. In addition, a special thanks to our Oracle supporters Christopher Phillips and Buck Farmer. Thanks a bunch! In the meantime, Mage strong. Bye!